Hello and welcome to the Brit Iron Podcast Week 8 preview episode. I'm your host James, and as ever, I'm joined by Matt and Sam. How are we today, boys? Haven't asked you that in a while.
Mate. I'm having a blast of a day, a really great day for me.
Yeah, it's great. Been a quality day. Got a long weekend, got lots of golf, some football on Sunday, college football Saturday. Oh, incredible weekend. I'm excited.
Cool, long weekend. That's all right for some. Unfortunately, some of us have got to work the next couple of days, so
And it's not me for once.
Yay!
So...
hey, that's
Let's
always
go.
a good sign. Right, before we jump into the news, I just thought I'd let you guys know that I was looking on the UK Touchdown website this morning,
All right.
and I found
Shouldn't
a
you
very
be working
nice,
this morning?
before work.
Oh,
Disclaimer in for James's boss, right there.
Hello, Chris. I know you're watching. This was before work, and I saw a very nice Keenan Allen signed jersey for only £100. Look at that.
Okay.
100 big ones. So that is
That's a
cracking
steal,
deal.
really, isn't it?
Absolute steal.
It's
Bargain.
basically the
Absolute
same price as just a regular jersey, only this time
Yeah.
you're getting it signed.
And certified.
Exactly.
And
Fully
signed.
certified. I'm glad you mentioned it. It's fully JSA certified as well.
Oh.
So it's all legit.
Ooh.
And of course, there's other signed memorabilia on their website as well, which is all legit. So for those listening, go check out the uktouchdown.com. A lot of great stuff on there. But the news, time for the news. And to kick it off, let's talk wide receivers. Now there's two big name players that have just been picked up by two big name teams. And that is of course that AB has signed with the Bucks and Dez Bryant has signed with the Ravens, albeit on the practice squad. How do we think these two are going to fare on these two teams?
Ooh. Firstly, I love the Bucks now being a big name team. I'm here for that. But
That is-
I think I like what Arians has come out and said. I think it was today. That AB's there just to give some depth. There's been issues currently. Godwin and Evans both dealing with injuries, even Scotty Miller. So I think this is needed to keep this rolling. You can't have this offense slowing down. You want to keep all the weapons there for Tom. And I mean, let's be honest. When AB was with the Pats, what was it? One drive, about 7 completions and a touchdown.
Yeah.
Brady wants to throw it to Antonio Brown. So I'm here for that pickup. I like how they've done the contract as well. There's no guaranteed money, no nothing to kind of tie us to him. So if he is a nightmare, they can just kick him out and be like, go, just get out of Florida, leave, don't bother us again. And then I think similarly, I like both these pickups. I like Dez as well. Give the Ravens a bit more depth, help him maybe throw the ball about a bit. I think Lamar, first few games looked like maybe he was going to show that side of him a bit more. Offense has looked reeled in a little bit. Hasn't looked quite what it was last year. Maybe this is just some experience, maybe a little bit of a spark to kind of get things going and get them back at their best. So I like both pickups, I think.
Yeah, I think it very much depends for me on what version of these players you get. I mean, both of them are potentially issues in the locker room. They've both had that kind of that ether around them and talks of them being issues in the locker room. But I mean, if Antonio Brown shows up and is Antonio Brown on the field and does what he can do and has done for so long in the league, then this is probably the best pickup of the season for any team, because whether he's an issue in the locker room or not, if he comes out and he performs at a 1,500 yard pace and he's scoring a bunch of touchdowns with Brady, then yeah, great pickup. At the end of the day, they're in a very much a win-now scenario, and if they can get someone of his caliber who's playing at what we know he can play for that cheap, then good on them. That's a great pickup, especially with the receivers they've got. The more intriguing one, to be honest, for me is Dez Bryant. Obviously, he's been put on the practice squad, so I mean, I think you said it almost straight away when this happened, didn't you, James, that you thought probably a couple of weeks and he's on the active roster. So I think we probably will see him. I think he'll get elevated at some point. I think if he can be he doesn't need to be great. He's not there to be the number one, but he's a bigger bodied, stronger receiver, kind of the antithesis to what Brown is. So you've got kind of that speedster, deep threat in Brown. You've got the big, strong-bodied receiver, which they were maybe lacking a little bit in Baltimore, which I think could be a nice compliment. So I'm more interested to see Dez, but I think Antonio Brown's probably got much easier route to being dominant.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day as well, these are both low-risk options for both teams, just the way that the contracts are structured. So, it's a great pickup for both teams because there's a lot of value there they could be getting if it works out. And if it doesn't work, just bin them off because it's going to be pretty cheap to do so. So why wouldn't you do it?
Don't buy a ticket, you will not win the raffle.
Yes, exactly. Love that saying. Favourite saying, that one. Right, let's move on to some more sad news, some somber news, and that is that OBJ has torn his ACL and is done out for the year. It's sad to see, again, for OBJ, missing more time. Just a great player, missing time is never good, but when it's so frequent for this guy, it's really hard. So, obviously, we send our best wishes to OBJ and wish him a speedy recovery.
Another ACL. Just seems, I don't know, maybe I don't know what it is about this season, but it seems it's way more common. Like every week there's an ACL going. It's just, maybe something to do with the off season, but it's gutting. Don't want to see it for anyone, so hopefully he's back better than ever next year.
Yeah, it's probably one of the worst injuries as well. The ACL is such a tough one to come back fully 100% from as well. So yeah, prayers out to him, and hopefully he'll be right in a year's time and back performing the way we like to see him perform, because he's an incredible player. And to finish off the news, you probably guess what it is by now. Our mate Adam on Instagram can definitely guess what it is by now. And that is that Adam Gase is somehow still in a job. It is now week 8 in the NFL.
Yeah.
And he's
Gase
still
watch continues. He's still there. I think the interesting thing about all of this is actually the news that came out. I believe I saw it on Twitter earlier. Trevor Lawrence was actually asked in an interview, I think it was yesterday or the day before, kind of where his head was at, declaring for the NFL draft. We've got a number of guys that have already declared for the draft and stated their intentions. I know Trey Lance of North Dakota State. They were supposed to be playing. I think they are still supposedly going to be playing a spring football season this year, and Trey Lance has already come out and declared. Trevor Lawrence actually kind of said, he basically came out and said, look, up until this point, I always just envisioned that I'd be going to the NFL, going to the league. But then he kind of opened a window and he said, but that remains to be seen. Maybe there is still a future here. So, I mean, I think everyone expected Lawrence to come out, and no one would have expected there to be any reason that he would say that he would consider staying at Clemson. I mean, there's nothing left for him to achieve there. I mean, short of winning a Heisman or something like that, he's done everything that a top-level quarterback can do. He will be the number 1 pick, most likely, and he stands to make millions and millions of dollars. So him saying that is a testament to how badly run that franchise is. If there's someone who's really considering passing up north of $40 million for a 4-year contract, something's really wrong in your organisation.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think I've sort of been saying for a few weeks now, Gase ain't gone yet. He's staying. He is there till the end of the year. This is something that could maybe change that. Like, if it becomes pretty clear that the whole time Gase is there, Trevor Lawrence is very non-committal and even going, I don't think I am going to, come out. I'm not going to declare. Maybe they start to think, well, hang on, what are we doing here then? We've traded away so much talent.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this still? And I think you could get to it where suddenly now, if Lawrence locked it up and said, I'm not coming out this year, play another year at Clemson, then you're going to have some other players at that position starting to think, well, hold on, now I'm next up. Like Justin Fields sort of thing, be like, well, I don't want to play there. So that you could end up with this weird situation, almost the Eli Manning sort of situation of a player that very, very vocally and clearly just doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
Like, this is a nightmare.
It's Gase. It's Gase. Yeah, they need to get rid of him, and I understand where you've been coming from kind of saying Gase they're just going to leave him there. Why bring someone in new? Let Gase play it out, and then when you go 0-16, then you can just blame it all on Gase, and you can set the refresh button. And I do get that. And I actually on the Twitter, we were having a conversation with one of our followers on there who was basically echoing those opinions, and he's a Jets fan. But at this point, the longer you leave Gase in, I think it just does more to that culture. It just drives the players that are in that room. There are a number of players in that locker room that you would expect will be on that team next year. The longer they're around Gase, the less they want to be in New York, the harder it is to salvage that talent. There's already talk that you've got maybe Quinnen Williams potentially on the trade block. What are you doing there? If you're planning on getting rid of Gase at the end of the year, but you let him trade a guy that you took in the first round of the draft just a year ago. I mean, there is still time for Gase to make even more of a mess up of this. In my opinion, get rid of him, get anybody else in to hold the gap until you find your guy, but Gase has got to go.
I think that news about Quinnen Williams, I was like, this goes beyond rebuild. Like, that's a really talented player who
it's fire sale.
This year hasn't looked at his best, but who does in that team? No one does.
Yeah.
In a rookie contract window, so got him cheap, and the potential that he should become one of the top players at that position. I think there's no one that's really going to heavily argue that. If you start clearing out talent like that, what are you rebuilding for? Like, what's the plan? Like, I don't get it. That's just you're tanking your whole franchise. At that point, you start to say, do you just get rid of the Jets, relocate them, new name, new uniforms, new everything, and just say, let's forget that happened almost? Because at that point, like, genuinely, like, it seems like a cursed franchise recently. If they start doing that, that's not rebuilding. You're tanking the franchise. Like, that is no...
Butt fumbling. Adam Gase is butt fumbling that franchise.
Wow. Probably true. But, I mean, the way I see it is, when was the last time the Jets were good?
I mean, early 2010s, they had a couple of runs. Mark Sanchez took them to a couple of AFC Championships games.
So not for the last decade.
Yeah, so about 8.
Not for 8 or 9 years have they been good. And even then, it was a very small kind of window. But
exactly.
they're historically a poorly run franchise. But I think Adam Gase is kind of the cherry on top of the cake in terms of just pure incompetence. Get him out.
Get him out. We said it for weeks now, weeks on weeks. Get him out and just start rebuilding and make yourself a proper, decent franchise that can actually compete in that division. But let's move on. Let's move on to the more juicy stuff. The game week preview, of course, going into week 8 in the NFL this week. We do have 4 teams on byes. We've got the Cardinals, the Jags, the Texans, and the Washington football team all on byes, so you won't be seeing them out on the field this week. But let's start with the Thursday night football matchup between the Falcons and the Panthers. Now, the Falcons in week 7 shocked us all because they found another very exciting way to lose again. This time by accidentally scoring a touchdown, at which point you saw Todd Gurley disappointed and the opposition, the Lions, almost celebrating it because they knew what it meant.
Have you seen the soundbite from the huddle of before that play? There is a soundbite and Matt Ryan, so they've mic'd up and there's a video on the huddle and Matt Ryan turns to Todd Gurley, looks at him and says, "Don't score. Get the first down and don't score." And Todd Gurley responds, "Don't worry, I'm not going to. I'm first down and score. First down, no score. Let's go." We wind the clock down, kick the field goal, we win the game. And then the soundbite kind of cuts out as they're walking to the huddle, and then it just shows Gurley falling hazardously into the end zone. And then just the look on his face as he kind of realises what's happened. It was painful to see because it is one of those things. The Falcons it's not even like they kind of went, "Oh, let's score." Like, they knew what they were doing. They had the plan. They had everything. They got the first down. And then Gurley just kind of brain melted and fell into the end zone.
Well, I don't know if it was a brain melt, but it was. You could tell he tried to curve his body to try.
He did everything with his body to try and stop that.
He was stumbling. He was falling around, and you can't blame him 100% for it. But it's just, if anything was to epitomise the Falcons season, it was that exact play. Just not getting it done when they need to get it done, and just throwing it away. Which again, that's the story of their season. But I mean, for this game against the Panthers, I think the Falcons are down and out on the season, 1-6. So in my opinion, the Panthers at minus 2.5 on the spreads, they should get it done. It seems like a steal. Yeah, exactly. So do you guys agree with that as well? Do you agree with that, Matt?
Yeah, 100%. Like, any money line spread, whatever I can, I'm betting against the Falcons. I'm taking the Panthers here. I think when a team that has a history of fumbling leads and losing games manages to do it by scoring a touchdown, like, I kind of enjoyed watching it, not gonna lie, from a Bucs fan point of view. Like, I was like, gonna love talking about this one. But yeah, I think the Panthers look like a team on the up. Falcons look lost. I think the longer this goes, the more I've been saying the last few weeks, maybe a rebuild's on the card. Yeah. As much as seen Judo's kind of said, oh, no, I don't know, I like what I am here, everything like that. If the opportunity comes up where he's going to a Super Bowl winning team, potentially, come on, hard to turn down. And I think the Panthers are looking much better than we all thought. Definitely a team on the up, and I think this is just going to look like a little bit of a mismatch, I think.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, the Falcons, if they have a shot in this game, it will be a shootout because the Panthers are quite a solid offensive team. Falcons' defense is non-existent at this point. They're just not that good. The Falcons' offense is still competent. Like, Matt Ryan is still putting up points. Matt Ryan's still throwing for a lot of yards. So maybe they can win a shootout. Really like the over in this game. I think given like the kind of trending over-unders, we're seeing a lot of high over-unders this year. I'm talking above 50. So I think for a game here where you've got two good offenses against two not great defenses, to get an over-under of 49, I think is quite generous. So I would be quite confident in taking the over on that one. I think that the Falcons do lose the game, and I really like the Panthers at -2.5. I think that's a steal. I think they win this by a touchdown quite comfortably.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that as well. And of course, the Panthers, they've had a very tight games this season as well. They've had quite a few tight games. So when you're going up against this Falcons leaky defense, I think it's just a recipe for disaster for the Falcons, and it should be a good win for the Panthers, if you like. But let's move on to the Sunday slate. Back to 6 p.m. kickoffs, unfortunately for us. It's an hour later, of course, with the clocks moving back and all that exciting stuff. But the Colts, fresh off a bye, are going into Detroit to play the Lions, who of course just beat the Falcons, as we just mentioned. Colts slight favourites in this one at -2.5. But I mean, that was a big comeback win for the Lions last week. But how impressive was Matthew Stafford, especially on that final drive?
It was one of those Lions performances and Matt Stafford performance where moments where you think, they've got it together. But it's just never consistent. It never seems to be able to roll on week to week, even quarter to quarter. So as much as, he looked good and he was impressive, it's not really changing how I'm thinking about this game at all. I think the Lions are just a middle of the pack team somewhere around there. They're the Lions, yeah.
Yeah, they're what the Lions tend to, and I mean what we saw from Matt Stafford, that is Matt Stafford. That is what Matt Stafford does. I think it's something silly, like in his 74 career wins, he's got 32 game-winning drives. Like half of the games he wins, he pulls something out of the fourth quarter where he just plays lights out. It's what Matthew Stafford does. But on the flip side of that, there's still plenty of games where he's just not shown up. They've not put up loads of points. And I think this week, it's one thing to do it against the Falcons and narrowly beat a Falcons team who seem to find ways to beat themselves. But this week, you're going up against a team in the Colts who've got a much better defense than the Falcons. I think their offense is their offense isn't as good as the Falcons, I don't think, the Colts, but they're much more controlled. So they might not score loads of points and put up loads of yards, but they will control the ball well, and as long as they kind of stick to what they know Rivers can and can't do at this point in his career, they should control the ball. Don't give Matt Stafford a lot of time to throw all those yards and kind of go gunslinger on them. This is a Colts team that's very well coached, and I don't think they'll make the same kind of mistakes the Falcons do. So I think the Colts at they'll be -2.5 again is quite a safe lockup for me, I think.
Yeah, 100%. All my money's going towards the Colts. Whatever format you're talking about, it's going on them. I think Jonathan Taylor's just going to run this game. Like, quite literally. Like, he's just going to take over. It's going to be his game. I think Lions didn't look great dealing with Gurley. And I think as good as Gurley has been, I think at this point Jonathan Taylor's going to come out and just be able to like carry the workload and just run all over him.
That Colts O-line as well. I don't think the Detroit Lions have got a D-line to be able to even trouble to trouble that Colts O-line. I mean, it's the best O-line in football. They've got some great pieces on it, and there's no one on that Lions D-line that makes me think, yeah, they're going to really cause Rivers issues. And if Rivers isn't pressured and he's not forced to make quick decisions and he's not forced to kind of get it out, then he'll just take the check down. Nothing stupid. He'll be fine with that. They just want to win games, and that's what the Colts will do.
I think, mentioning Rivers, that is the one way the Lions are properly in this and are in a position where Stafford can do his thing in the fourth quarter, is if Rivers can't keep the ball secure. We've seen it a few times before. Normally, it is when he's pressured, but this season it's just seemed to sometimes creep in on just errant throws that you just should be able to make. So there is a window for the Lions, but Colts all day long.
Yeah, I think I'm backing the Colts as well. But I'm going to put it out there, this is a must-win game for the Colts, based on the schedule coming up. Because if they lose this game, I believe their season could be almost over. So if they lose this game, they'll be 4-3 on the season. Yep. So 4-3 off the back of a loss to the Lions. They then got to go play the Ravens, the Titans, the Packers, the Titans again, the Texans, the Raiders, the Texans, the Steelers, and then the Jags. So coming off the back, if they lose to the Lions, they could get to that final Titans game and be 4-7.
I think that stretch of, what was it you said,
Ravens, Titans, Packers, Titans.
That's a horrible 4-game stretch, isn't it? I mean, that's 3 teams that could all conceivably, will potentially all conceivably be in their respective conference championships.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this Colts is starting to just 8-8 all over it potentially. A few games against the Texans they could take, few after that run, but that run is going to be brutal, and that's going to get that team down. Like, you could have Rivers just everyone losing confidence in Rivers not being confident in himself, and just all kinds of issues come out of that potentially, because there's some good defenses in amongst that as well.
Exactly. So must-win game for the Colts, and if they lose it, then I think that could be done for them this season, because their confidence low, like you said there, Matt. It's perhaps a bold take, but you can see it happening.
There only hopes the extra wild card spot. Maybe that keeps them in with a chance compared to other seasons. But I think it ends any hopes of them sort of sniffed around for a automatic route in, sort of through winning that division if they don't get the win here.
Exactly. But I would still favour the Colts in this one, but just a point worth noting moving forward. And let's move this forward into the Vikings going into Green Bay to play the Packers. This is 2 teams on either end of the of the table, if you like. Vikings being 1-5, Packers being 5-1. Packers are favourites at -6.5, which I quite like to take.
That seems too low to me. That seems too low.
Yeah. So then we're expecting the Packers to keep it rolling here and get the win, right?
I can't see how. Aaron Rodgers is playing great football. You take out that game against the Bucks, where obviously he shut down, everything went kind of to pot. Other than that, he's playing MVP football this year. He will be, I think, in that conversation come the business end of the season. Their defense is playing well. But most importantly, I think at this point for that Green Bay Packers team, their O-line is playing absolutely lights out. Of the top 5 PFF rated O-linemen in the league up to this point in the season, 2 of the 5 top rated O-linemen are on that Packers O-line, which says a lot. With Bakhtiari is Bakhtiari back yet? Because he's key on that O-line. I'm not 100% sure if he's back in. But the O-line's playing well, which is just allowing that running back core with, obviously they've got Aaron Jones, who's been missing a bit, but you've got other guys that are stepping up. Aaron Rodgers playing lights out. You've got Devontae Adams just stepping up and he's going from being a good number 1 to one of maybe the top 3 receivers in the league, in my opinion, at this point. And they've got a number of people that aren't names that are just stepping up and getting a job done. I think they win this very easily. I love that 6.5 line.
I think the one window potentially for the Vikings, though, Dalvin Cook looking like he might be back, which is so important to this team. But it's not enough, I don't think, in this situation. I think it's going to take the elite defenses to rattle this Packers team. And so far, the fact they bounced back against the Texans, and it was shown if the defense can't get the pressure on and kind of get Rodgers feeling a little bit rumbled, feeling a bit of pressure, they're just going to steamroll them. And it's going to be the same this week. I'm taking the Packers moneyline spread, whatever you want. Rolling with them there. Probably going to take the under, though. I don't think it will get past its 54.5.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I don't know if it's going to quite reach that. I think being in division, two teams that know each other well, I think there could be a little bit of a difficult edge to this. Like, it's not going to be as open, but it's going to be the Packers just getting the job done. Rodgers gets business done, moves on to next week at 6-1.
Yeah, it's got to be for me as well. The Packers getting the win here, and I just had a little look as well. Bakhtiari is back in practice today. Today's been Wednesday the 28th.
That's huge. That is huge.
That swings it as well. You know, that's a big player to protect Aaron Rodgers. So yeah, I think with that news, Packers definitely, and I think I agree with you, Matt, as well with the under/over.
Really?
I think I'll be taking the under on that one. Yeah,
See,
it's a bit too high for me.
I think I'd take the over on this one just because I think Thielen is just rolling, scoring touchdowns. So I think Thielen probably grabs a touchdown. I think, like you said, Matt, with Dalvin Cook coming back. But I think there's a chance the Packers put up 40 points in this game. And off the back of that you'd only need two Vikings touchdowns.
Yeah,
the one thing to keep an eye on for that is Jefferson. He seems like the garbage time guy at the moment. He'll just put up numbers there. So that could potentially spin that if the Packers are sort of in a blowout lead position. But be interesting to see. Interesting to see how it turns out. But it's going to be the Packers on to get the dub either way.
Yeah, I think we'll all agree on that one. It's a rarity for us to all agree, but yeah, I think definitely the Packers.
Yes.
Right, let's move it on to the Patriots going into Buffalo, very cold Buffalo this time of year. Play the Bills, of course. You couldn't tell by now. Another massive in-division game, which maybe at the start of the season might have been a bit swung the other way. I'm not really sure how we all saw it, but a bit concerning for the Bills. They're starting to struggle to score. Now, they only scored field goals against the Jets, and this is, of course, a very, very bad Jets team who you'd expect to score at least 2 or 3 touchdowns. And it wasn't a convincing win. I think in our episode last week, I said I'd take the Bills at -24. And they didn't even cover the original spread, which was like 12 points, I think it was. So
the spread was 9. I think I had
9. There you go.
I had them. I had them in one of my bets at the spread as 9, and that was one of those ones where you go, well, that's going to happen. Just put that as a banker, get the ACCA going a little bit more, and then they came in at 8. And I remember the entire time just thinking, what is going on? How are they not scoring? This defense is appalling. And you're just not doing anything on them.
Yeah,
but
the
Patriots, in the flip side, also had a terrible offensive showing. So
awful.
I think this has the possibility of just being the most garbage game of the week in terms of watching, because it could be 2 offenses that aren't really finding their groove going up against 2 quite competent defenses, I think. And it just being a boring game.
Yeah, like Cam, just what was going on there last week is concerning. If I'm the Patriots, I'm like, well, hold on. Do we have a quarterback here who can actually keep the ball, with the offense?
Yeah,
and it's just, this could be a really odd game for like one of these teams. You'd assume it during this at some point is going to start to get right on offense. I really don't know who I'd want to call that it's going to be. Because Josh Allen, it seems like the second everyone started acknowledging, well, hang on, the numbers he's put up are the same as Mahomes and Jackson in their MVP seasons. It seems like the second he was told that, what is going on? It's just gone. Yeah, I think I'm just logically, you're going to go with the Bills here, I think. My line spread, they should be the better team. But in division, when, I don't know, Belichick in division and having his team coached, and I wouldn't want to be Cam Newton this week, I'll put it that way. I imagine he has had a miserable week in that practice facility, the way he's probably getting treated. But I think it could be just a bad game.
Normally I really like that kind of, Belichick in division, or Belichick with coming off a win, or off a loss even. Normally I buy into that. But there's something different this year about this Patriots team. Normally by this point each season, especially for the last 5 years, there has been at least one kind of wobble, do you know what I mean, in their early season, that everyone's gone, even with Brady and Belichick, gone, this is it, this is the wheels done, like they'll have a bad game and they won't look like the Patriots, and everyone will go, well, that's the end of the dynasty, and then they come back and they get rolling, and then by mid to late October, early November, they're starting to form into a team that, oh my god, well, yep, same old Patriots. And they find their identity. Now, that's not always the same. In the early years with Brady, that identity was always, look, we're gonna control the ball. Brady's a game manager, and we're gonna play great defense. And then they kind of morphed into this team that were just gonna score loads of points with Randy Moss and Brady. And then they went maybe back towards the defense a little bit. And then Brady had a bit more of a renaissance where he started. But each year they had an identity, and this year they just don't. They're not massively dominant on defense like they have been the last couple of years, which has kind of dragged them into the playoffs and helped them be so successful. They're nowhere near as competent offensively without Brady. It's very clear to see that. So I think that lack of any form of real identity on this team really means that I just have no faith in them. And against a Bills team that I think does still have that identity of, look, we can run the ball and we can play good defense, I think the Buffalo Bills do win this game. But I think I might take the Patriots at plus 3.5 here, just because I think it could be a field goal game.
Ooh, it's going to be a tight one, is it? Oh, I don't know.
I see this being decided by a touchdown for me. I think, I don't know, but I think that point on the Patriots, you can't expect them to have it sorted by the sort of October, November point as easily, like sort of the start of November, end of October, because it's so much change. The defense, 8 players that were sitting out, that's going to change things, and it's going to take a few games to get right. They had the disruption of COVID, so they've lost time in the practice facility. The offense, it's got to be different. Obviously, they're having to run it differently with Cam Newton to play to his strengths.
Yeah.
So I think I'm not putting the panic alarm on the Patriots being the Patriots and pulling something back enough to scrape a wild card spot or something of that ilk until, let's say, if we get towards the end of November and it's like they still do not know what they're doing or what this team is, then fine. By all means, I'm with that.
If at the end of November they're playing like this, they won't be in the wild card spot anyway, because they'll have lost four more games and they're looking bad. But I mean, we're approaching 8 weeks into the season. Obviously, there's going to be some movement with COVID and stuff, but they just haven't really. I think Cam's put together 1.5 games where I've thought, yeah, that's Cam Newton. The rest of the time he's been average or below, and the defense hasn't been insanely dominant, and there hasn't been anything that's made me go, like, usually the Patriots play at a level and then they really kick it up a gear. But I'm still thinking, even if they kick it up a gear, they're still just an average team. They've got so far to go before they're really competing, I think, that I don't think we can assume that they are going to be a threat in the playoffs. And I actually think in that division, I don't think they make the playoffs this year.
No, I'm saying it does. It looks unlikely, is what I'm agreeing with there. I just think you get it where sometimes teams, it's a bit of a bounce back game, but especially a well-coached team in division, they've played these other teams so much before that it's much easier to get right in that scenario. As much as it works both ways, in this instance it doesn't, because the Bills haven't played this sort of with the Patriots without Brady as much, if you get what I mean, where I'm coming from. So I think I'm not saying this is the thing the Patriots come out and just blow the Bills away. I mean, they make it competitive, because on paper it shouldn't be. That's sort of more, maybe I didn't word it clear, but that's more what I'm getting at here. But I think, I'm putting all my money with the Bills in whatever betting scenario, but I'm hesitant to do it. I think I'll do that if I'm building a big ACCA, if I'm putting a few together. If I'm just trying to build one that I'll actually want and kind of hope will come in, probably leaving this game off completely, I think, because it's just a weird one.
I'm a bit more confident about the Bills in this one. I think he's gonna. Josh Allen will have John Brown back, who's looked very good this season. Stephon Diggs, I think he had a bit of a injury field time last week.
Nursing something,
so he'll be back to full practice, or whatever you want to call it, full 100%. He'll be 100%, and Cole Beasley obviously looked good as well, and he'll be out on the field. And I just think the 2 running backs they've got as well, I think they're just a more rounded team at the moment, and they've looked better this season. So I'll be taking the Bills at -3.5. I really like that spread for this one. Let's move on to the Tennessee Titans going into Cincinnati to play the Bengals. Both had tough late game losses last week. With the Titans against the Steelers and the Bengals against the Browns. I mean, it made a great week of football and it made a great early slate last Sunday. But for these teams, it was quite tough to take, and even more so for Burrow. You feel really sorry because he's been close so many times this year, but they've only got one.
He's having an amazing season. He's having a really good season.
He's having a great season. It's just that little bit extra that is needed by that team to get him over the line. But I mean, if you're a Bengals fan, it's you're not disappointed necessarily.
No, not at all.
You're seeing good flashes.
They're leaps and bounds better than they were last year. I don't think there is a single Bengals fan who is sat at home angry with what they're seeing. They're sat at home going, "Okay, we've got a guy," and to be in that spot. Compared to where you were this time last year, you're really, really not going to complain. They've got a number of guys at a number of positions that their future going forward is very bright. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But moving on to this game, I think even though they're 1-5 before game, I think they'll be 1-6 and one tie. After the game, I think the Titans are the clear favourites here. Low spread line at -5.5, which is a bit of a shock to me. I think the Titans are a better team than that. I know 50% of us will agree. The other 50% are a bit more higher on the Titans, if you like. But
I think if anyone that's listened to a few before knows where we will stand on this, and I think as much as at this point they couldn't get that win over the Steelers, one botched kick away, which I think maybe a story of some of the big games. Gostkowski's looking a bit shaky when he has to actually make the money's on the line. But toe-to-toe with the only undefeated team. Fair play. Steelers looked great. There was a point when it was 14-0, I was like, oh god, this is what is happening here. Yeah. Made a few jokes of, they'll pull it back. One big splash play and they're back in this. Yeah. And then it happened.
I was nervy.
Me and Sam were sweating.
I was nervy. At halftime, I was sat there like, I was so right. The Steelers are amazing. The Titans are rubbish. Get in the bin. And then, as it came back and that third quarter went by and the Titans just kept scoring points and the Steelers kept doing nothing and he kept bringing it back. And I was like, oh, God, I'm going to be embarrassed here. But they held on.
I was pretty happy, though, because I was on the fence. So it was win-win for me either way.
But I think,
love sitting on those fences.
Bringing it back to this game, the Titans are going to take this. I think this stage... The fact they could go toe-to-toe with the Steelers, who this looks like just a new generation of the Steelers. Sort of, they've been dominant in the past. Starting to look back there.
Steel curtain is back.
They are looking so good. And then Titans went toe-to-toe with them, one kick away. The Bengals are not going to put up any threat to that, I don't think. I think this Titans team, they know how they win games. I just don't think the Bengals can stop Derrick Henry. And when needed as well, Tannehill can throw the ball about and people will make plays for him. AJ Brown looked good at points as well, coming back in. So just Titans bounce back, keep it moving. Bengals will make it competitive. They'll put some points up. But I think I'm taking the Titans money line spread. But potentially the over on this one. I think this is one that will creep over the 55.
Yeah.
I think definitely.
I agree with you. I think the Titans... everything you said about them winning, I agree with you. I think... The Bengals probably do put up a fair amount of points, but I actually quite like this Titans defense. I know that the Steelers are a team built around that just insane defense, but they're still a very good offense as well. And the Titans defense quietly got absolutely hammered in the first half, regathered themselves, came back and held them and put them in a spot to have that comeback. So I think there will be some turnovers by the Bengals. I think they might miss Joe Mixon kind of not having that quality of running back. I know he doesn't always put up the numbers, but he is that kind of big play guy. I think the Titans are just going to roll this. I really like the over as well on this, just because I think Joe Burrow is good enough to put up 21 points, which then means that 35 from the Titans, which is very possible, is all you need.
Yeah, it's definitely plausible to see that points total. I think I'm with you guys on all points raised there, on the Titans and the spread, and the under-over as well. It's good we all agree once again. This is probably the most times ever in an episode we've all agreed on lines. And stuff
I think that might be about to change.
Well, let's move it on and see what you're talking about, because the Raiders are going in to play the Browns. Now, mad props to Baker. Got a lot of criticism in Week 6, but he got it done in Week 7 and was the AFC Offensive Player of the Week, which is great to see for Baker and the Browns, of course. Not so good for as a Ravens fan, but what gives, man, what gives. And also, just a point, I was wrong about the Raiders. I like to bring up when I'm right, and I'm going to put my hands up when I'm wrong. I was wrong about them against the Buccaneers. I said that the Raiders would win that comfortably. Not comfortably, I just said they'd win it. And they didn't really... No, they just didn't do it. They lost to the Bucs, and just eating my words, and it's not good. But Sammy, you got a controversial opinion about this game? Is that why you think?
I don't know if you think it's controversial, and the spread and the betting line probably doesn't say it's controversial. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lock up the Browns for a comfortable win in this game. I think the defense is strong. Denzel Ward is just a great player.
Oh.
He made a couple of plays at the weekend that I was watching, and you look at him and you just think, for a guy who's not massive, like he's not huge, he looks a bit breakable, do you know what I mean? Like spindly, and like a one big hit destroy him. But he's just so good. He is just so good, and he makes a couple plays that you just think, he's great. They've got one of the best defensive players in the league in Garrett. And I know this sounds bad, but I think maybe OBJ doing his ACL might be the best thing that's happened to this Browns team all season. When OBJ is on the field, it is almost as if Baker just lasers onto him, that he goes, that's my guy, because OBJ is probably the best player on the team, just in terms of, or offensive wise at least, just in terms of pure talent. When OBJ is healthy at 100%, he is one of the most talented players in the league. Now, being a receiver, and he kind of needs the guy, but it's almost like Baker just goes, right, that's who I'm thrown to. And that's what he does. And 40% of the plays, he will just, and you can see it in his head, he'll drop back, he lasers on, and he will just try and throw it there and go, well, Baker's great, he's going to make a play. OBJ. OBJ comes out of the lineup. You've got some injuries to your tight ends, but your young tight end Bryant really steps up, and he comes in and he looks really good, and he looks like he's on a page with Baker. Baker looks just so much better when OBJ is not on the field. He looks like he's going through his reads a bit better. He looks like he's making decisions better. He's not forcing it to people, and I think that could really open the Browns up. I think the Browns are a better team for it, and I think they're going to handle business comfortably against the Raiders.
Oh, 100% agree. I think you pretty much quoted the points I was going to bring up. I think this offense can be better without OBJ. I think, as good as he is, I don't know whether it's just team scheme and just really focus down on him, and that combines what you said about Baker, just solely looking to go to him when he's not even going through reads. That is just his read every play. But I think also maybe it's a little bit of OBJ. He knows he's good. He's not quite in a spot where you think, oh, he's going to get that Super Bowl. He's going to get, again, that sort of thing. I think I'd rather have the rookies that want it out there to an extent. Yeah. Peoples-Jones looked good. That catch at the end of that game was...
Getting his feet down was so good.
Incredible. Mix it with Bryant, who looks like he can fill in whenever Njoku or Hooper aren't going to be there. He seems to be settling into the league well. But also the fact this team knows what they need to do. They still are happy to just feed it through Kareem Hunt, let him just rumble where he needs to, and then just catch teams with the big plays. And when Baker isn't just trying to throw it wherever Odell is, he looks good. And in the end zone, I think it's about 14 touchdowns to no picks from Baker in the red zone. Sorry, there's how you do this. Run it with Kareem Hunt, get to the red zone, let Baker start to air it out, mix in a bit of play action, lean on the defense against a Raiders team that. They're a coin flip team this year. There's going to be games where they come out and do what they did against the Chiefs and look good, and you think, here we go. And then there's going to be games where they come out and just aren't in it, like against the Bucs. And that's going to be the story of the Raiders for this year. I think there's still a lot of bright points to this Raiders team. I think they could turn it around and they could prove to be more than a coin flip team. But maybe that's not going to be till next season when they can get some more additions, really kind of get this thing rolling. But I don't see them being able to put up enough here to deal with this Browns team. And a confident Baker is a dangerous Baker. We've seen that before. If he starts to get back a bit of that swagger, start feeling himself again, you don't really want to be playing against him. So I think that's why the Browns all the way here for me.
So just a quick one before we move on to the next game. You mentioned the Raiders, maybe next year, maybe like 50-50 coin flip team. Do you boys think Derek Carr is the guy? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think he's got it in the tank. I think it's in his locker to do enough to get to see what he needs to be. I think Josh Jacobs needs to kind of still come on and develop and become one of like an unquestionably top 5 back, consistent, you can count on him kind of guy. So Derek Carr doesn't have to air it out every game and be the guy that wins the game. But I think he's shown a few times this year he can do it.
Yeah.
And I think we're all starting to talk a lot better about Derek Carr. Everyone on Twitter it seemed like everyone was really coming back round to him. One bad average game against the Bucks, who I think arguably are right up there with the Steelers in my opinion. And by the time we hit playoffs, we'll be right up there with the Steelers in terms of quality as a defense. Mainly because just how they're coached. But Aaron Rodgers looked dreadful against the Bucks. So I think no one can really sour on Carr as much. I think as much as it is still half a season of football where he's looked better again and had good moments compared to the last few years where he's been like, oh, what's going on there? He's getting a lot of money. I think I'm a little bit higher, I think, anyway, on Carr than you. I don't know, I feel like he's an easy player to be quite judgmental on because of the contract and because he's not a flashy quarterback all the time. He's not a Mahomes. He's not a Lamar Jackson. But I think he's not the issue with this team. He is not what's stopping him from winning, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mentioned it before. I think I mentioned it last week. He's having one of the better seasons of his career. So to ask the question, is he the guy? I think he's starting to prove it this year. This year is a good sample for him to show what he can do.
But is that not a reason though, there, James, that makes you go, well, maybe he's not the guy? I mean, you're paying him big time money, and what he is, in my opinion, which is not a knock on him. I don't think it's a okay, you're an NFL quarterback, but I think he's actually just what Andy Dalton was 6 years ago. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think his ceiling.
He's that mid-level. He's that mid-level. Like, Andy Dalton won a lot more games than Derek Carr has. Andy Dalton had multiple 11-5 years. Derek Carr's had one 12-4 year, and the rest of the time, in general, has been a losing quarterback. But he's been paid to be this at one point the highest paid quarterback in the league, and he's never performed like that.
Well, this year I think could be the year. I generally do think that. I think this season he's looked good enough to do it, and I think he's putting up numbers and stats and stuff like that that make you go, okay, maybe this is the guy. Maybe he can do it, and starting to prove his worth. And just moving it back to this game as well, I think this is a game where I disagree with you guys with the outcome. I'll be taking the Raiders here. Because remember last week against the Bucks, they were missing Jonathan Abraham in that secondary, and he was clearly missing him. But Bucks put up a lot of yards and like 4 touchdowns, I think it was, and he's confirmed to be back practicing this week. So he'll be back in this game against the Browns. And like I said it there, this Derek Carr's been having a good year, and Josh Jacobs is a talented running back. And although, the Browns' defense is good in places and is very good in places, I still would prefer the Raiders on this one, knowing how hit and miss Baker can be as well. Yep. Especially throwing to a few, like, the rookies out there as well. They're still learning, they're still adjusting. So I think I'll be taking the Raiders, especially on the spread, which the spread favours the Browns at minus 2.5. So, I think for me, it's got to be the Raiders here. But, hey, we all got to disagree at some point, so...
Yeah. I mean, that's the nature of a coin flip team. They are going to get wins when you don't see it coming. So I think they beat the Chiefs. There's no reason they can't beat the Browns.
Exactly, they can do it.
All depends on Baker, I think, realistically. Who shows up.
Well, it's a part of it, I suppose. But it's good to see him have a good week last week, definitely. And hopefully for my prediction, not so much this week, but we shall see. Right, let's move into probably the game of the season for me. The 0-7 Jets going to play the 6-1 Chiefs. I'm locking up the Jets. Jets all day, every day. Best team in football. Yeah, I don't think we need to say an awful lot on this game, to be honest with you, but as Sam's alluded to there, the spread is minus 19.5, which is one of the highest I've seen in a long time. I don't think there'll be many other teams that would get as high a spread against this Jets team. But
is this a game that we could see backups in before halftime?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I think this is one where a lot of those Chiefs players, you've got a lot of contractual bonuses in the NFL, and especially on the offensive side of the ball. There's going to be guys out there just saying to Mahomes, like, get me a little boost, get me kind of on my way to that target, get me a good point for mid-season. And I think, let's not talk about this too much. I think Chiefs all day, all fronts, money lines, spread, they're going to cover that 19.5. Taking the over because the Chiefs are going to put up hopefully 48 on their own. I would genuinely not be shocked.
The Chiefs are probably going to put up 90 on the Jets. So let's face it.
This is going to look like some of the college scores you get. I think Clemson had one recently.
It's going to look like a basketball score. It's going to look like a really lopsided basketball.
I was going to say, very one-sided basketball.
Yeah, I was going to say,
but yeah, let's just keep it rolling. I think no one said anything but Chiefs all day on every front, and in any way you can put money on them. I think.
Yeah, I think
keep it rolling.
I think that's the same thing as just to move on from this one. Of course, one notable point, of course, is Lev Bell comeback game against the Jets. Perhaps a proven wrong game, but even then,
they're going to get up early, and he's going to be schemed in to have some fun. And there is going to be, I think, a point where he gets in the end zone, and there's going to be a little bit between him and Adam Gase of like he will make it.
Hopefully, he'll let Adam Gase to the sideline. He walks over to the sideline and just lays Adam Gase out. One punch. Just puts him out. Saves the Jets all of the misery. Jesus. And
I was more hoping for he just pulls some papers out of his socks. It's letting Gase walk. It's his walking papers. You've been served. And heads off. And there's one last thing that he does for the Jets. Maybe not, assault. But
yeah, I was going to say, we don't
like
condone violence.
Laid out. I'd quite like to see him laid out.
I mean...
blood feud against Adam Gase.
Yeah. One punch, Adam Gase, get out, and then he just struts off to the bench, takes his helmet down, and doesn't when he's getting ejected, he's like, no, I'm going to stay on the bench.
I feel like any other Giants fan would not be this anti-Jets. There's just something personal of it just being Gase.
I just don't like Adam Gase. I just really don't like Adam Gase.
Yeah,
keep it rolling.
Yeah, let's keep it moving.
Let's bring it back, boys.
We don't condone violence on the Brit Iron Podcast,
unless it's towards Adam Gase.
Awesome. Even if it's a bad head coach,
go for it.
Yeah, well, let's move on before we get a ticket for your arrest there, Sam. Right, the Rams are going in to play the Miami Dolphins this week in what will be the first start for Tua. Now, how do you guys think he's going to handle the NFL? And more importantly, how do you think that hip is going to handle Aaron Donald?
I think in general, for both those questions, I'm going to assume well, because I don't think they put him out there if there's any doubts. They've left it for half the season, so I think they're happy with what they're seeing from him on a medical front. And we've seen it, any player can get injured by any other player at any time. It just takes the wrong angle, the wrong momentum, anything like that. So I think, not reading too much into that side of it, I think it's similar to the whole Alex Smith debate of teams are not, for the most part, especially teams in their positions, they're not going to put a guy out there who shouldn't be, unless they're, let's say, competing to really try and win something. You see some organisations handle situations differently. But I think in terms of Tua, I think he will be good in the NFL, but I think it's going to be that a typical thing of it's his first start. He's going to show why they drafted him. He's Tua. He is a talented quarterback, but he's also going to show it's his first start at points. And I think against a well-coached Rams team that can really pressure a quarterback, I think you're just going to see it at points where that he is a rookie and it's his first start. I think for me, the Rams are going to take this. They got past the Bears, who I said last week, I think are just a disruptive team, and they just looked well coached. That offense did what they had to do to throw that Bears defense off and not let them get rattled and get past them, keep it moving. And I think they're just going to want to take this as another win against arguably a team they should beat. They are more talented than the Dolphins, and just kind of keep on rolling. But I think Tua gives a good account for himself and sort of shows Dolphins were right to take me as the guy and to put me in, but not enough to carry them past this Rams team for me.
Yeah, I think the Rams win quite comfortably. I would take them at the -3.5 quite happily. I think they win. I think the Rams are looking like a really solid team this year. They're in a tough division. So, I mean, if they come out and they make the playoffs, they've really earned it, at which point they are with that coaching staff, I think would be a dark horse team to put together a run, just because McVay can coach very well. I really like Jared Goff in general. I think he throws a lovely deep ball, and I think he's very composed, which a lot of quarterbacks in this league aren't necessarily. He was quite exposed to a lot of success early in his career. He's played in a Super Bowl. He's won playoffs games. He's been there. He's done it. So I wouldn't put it past them. So I think going forward, Rams win this game, and I think there's a lot to be excited about for Rams fans. On to the Dolphins. Yeah, don't think they're going to win the game. In terms of what I expect to see from Tua, I actually just don't know at this point. We've not seen enough, I don't think. I mean, he was injured in his final year at Alabama, so it's been a while since he's played any kind of really meaningful football. Obviously, it was a nasty injury, so until we see him out on the field, we don't know how he's going to react. We just don't know. It could be one of those things that everyone thinks is healed, but there's something niggling. Maybe we don't know.
Yeah.
He's also coming from Alabama, he's an incredibly talented quarterback. Don't get me wrong. Alabama is not a program that consistently puts out pro-ready quarterbacks, right? It just isn't. It's not USC, it's not Oklahoma, it's not one of these or Texas or somewhere like that is known for kind of having a culture and systems that put out pro-ready guys. Now, that's not saying that they don't put out pro quarterbacks. They've got a couple. AJ McCarron came out. He's had an okay career. I mean, got paid a lot of money to be a backup, but when you top that on top of the injury, on top of no preseason, having not actually seen him do anything, I'm not going to sit here and say I think he's going to be good, I think he's going to be bad, because I actually don't know. I mean, you hear things out of camp, but I mean, realistically, anything you hear out of camp and stuff is going to be spun at least positively as they can, because they've just spent a high draft pick. So I'm going to hold judgment until this time next week when I've seen Tua play in a live NFL game with stakes, and then I'll come round and say, yes, I think he can do it in this league. No, I think something like that, just because, in my opinion, I don't have enough information at this point.
Staying comfortably and safely on the fence there, Sam. Just like
the
the politician of the Brit Iron. Jesus.
You know what it sounds like? That sounds like a typical we'll have to wait and see situation, Sam.
The longest way of saying we'll have to wait and see I've heard in a while.
Literally, yeah, I was going to say, really, politicians aren't there.
You said a lot of saying nothing at all.
That's why I just said in how many words.
Vote for Sam.
Have to wait and see. 7 words. There you go. Look, that's an easy way of saying it.
Yeah, well, I thought I had to justify why I was saying it. Otherwise, I'm just saying we'll have to wait and see.
Well, it makes sense. It makes sense what you said. And I do.
Yeah.
I do agree.
Yeah.
And,
all take it aside.
Yeah, I am taking the Rams because, Tua, we don't know what we're going to get. But very excited to watch him out there on the field, that is for sure. Yeah. But like Sam has alluded to there, we will just have to wait and see.
Certainly will.
Certainly will.
What
Certainly
a time
will.
to be alive.
Right, let's move it on to my game of the week. A big AFC
Very
North
big
matchup, which also features my lock of the week, which I'll come on to in a bit. Now, the Steelers are going in to play the Ravens. And for those listening at home, the boys are giving me some very strange looks right now as to why I've said that about being lock of the week. Because they think I'm going to lock up the Ravens. Who knows? You'll have to wait and see. No, I strongly believe that the Steelers are the best team in the NFL right now. I don't think many people can disagree with that. It's painful for me to say that as a Ravens fan.
Called it.
Really painful because, we love to get one over them, but they just look so well-rounded. Mm-hmm. And, of course, my lock of the week would be the Steelers because the spread for this game, as it stands, is -4 in favour of the Ravens. So why would you not look up the Steelers here? Because the Ravens couldn't get it done against the Chiefs. That second half comeback the final quarter comeback by the Eagles. Just there's a lot of question marks I think around the Ravens right now, and this is the game where those question marks will get exposed again, I think, and it might not look too pretty in places. Obviously, I'm hopeful, but you can never be too sure. But my question to you guys is, if the Steelers win this game, is it just safe to assume they're going to go on and just win this division? There's no way back for the Ravens.
Not necessarily.
Ooh,
I mean, you can
that's
still
tough.
you can see the wheels falling off teams. I mean, any team like this, the Steelers at the moment, you've got. I mean, you've got to have the players, you've got to have the coaches, and then you've got to have luck in the NFL. At the end of the day, the teams that tend to go on and win Super Bowls have got great coaching, they've got good players and a good culture. And at the end of the day, most of the time, they've got luck. They're the healthy teams. They're the teams that have everybody. I mean, the difference in the 49ers between this time last year and this time this year is night and day. And that is not... The coaching stayed the same. The team and everyone in the building stayed the same. The difference is this year, they've got unlucky and got injured. So, I mean, the Steelers are a few injuries away. Obviously, they've got so many great players. But, I mean, you're a... TJ Watt and a Minka Fitzpatrick from going down, from that defense being a whole different story. I mean, those are the kind of players that take a defense from being good to being historic. So, yeah, it's not over yet, and this is a good Ravens team. I think the reason the Steelers have probably got this one on a lock, in my opinion, is that the Steelers have shown last week that they can shut down the run. They've shown that. They quite handily, at least in the first half, they shut down Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry on a number of occasions just got swallowed up at the line of scrimmage. Now, the Ravens, who want to establish the run but don't have Derrick Henry back there, I think aren't going to be able to get the run going, which is going to force Lamar Jackson to throw the ball more, and then you're just forcing him to throw into the waiting jaws of Minka Fitzpatrick, who is slowly starting to return to that high kind of level that he was at the end of last year, which I think is key for the Steelers. So, I think the Steelers win it, but I think I'd quite happily take the over in this one, because if the Ravens are going to show up and be that like kind of monster offense that we want them to be, they're going to have to do it in this game to stand a chance of winning, I think.
I think the Steelers are winning this. I think they're an unbeaten 7-0 team for a reason. There's been a couple little moments of Big Ben doing his whole career of little picks creeping in, and you're like, oh, but he's kept it good so far. I think he's experienced head on those shoulders that he's going to be able to keep that rolling. But I'm not assuming they're going to stop this run as easily, because I think Lamar Jackson is where a lot of this Ravens rushing comes from. It's, I think, very different in the way he's going to run the ball at you. So I don't think it's as easy as linear as saying they stop Derrick Henry, they'll stop Lamar Jackson. I think it's tough to say. If this Ravens offense looked even 90% of what it was last year, and I think it's currently playing maybe at 70, maybe even 65 of last year at points, then I could see them really making this a game. So unless Lamar Jackson steps it back up and gets everyone rolling with him, it's just not there enough. And unless, I think for the Steelers, I think I see them rolling all the way through to the championship game. Currently, I think they look that good. And injuries aside, I think that was my big point before the season.
Yeah,
was I don't think they're going to stay healthy. They seem to be the one team that is. So for that whole time that they're staying healthy, I think they've got what it takes, mainly in this defense and in an offense that is good. It's just good enough to roll along behind the defense. They go all the way to the big game. I think I know a team that could beat them there, but I think they're going to get all the way there. And I think they take this game pretty comfortably in the end. I think the Titans currently would beat the Ravens.
Yeah.
And I think if they got past on the missed field goal, but looked like they would blow that game out of the water at points in the first half, I think they take this by a score, maybe even a score and a field goal, and kind of keep it moving.
Yeah, as painful as it is, I think I agree with you there. I'm not too confident going into this game. I can't understand why the spread is where it is, and I think a lot of people would tend to agree with that. But if we get the win, we're both then 6-1 teams, and
changes the story of the season. That
changes the story of the season, and that could be, that division opens up a little bit at the top there. But I think if the Steelers get the win, that puts them at 7-0. We're then at 5-2, and it brings in a bit more of a divide, and you start to get a bit more worried about about that top place in that division. But exciting matchup for sure, and I think we're all itching to watch that one on Sunday. Right, let's head into the 9 p.m. games. We've got a 9:05 game here, where the Chargers go into Denver to play the Broncos. Herbert is looking strong this season.
That's an understatement.
Incredibly strong.
Up Pat Mahomes numbers
right now.
Points in their career.
Right now, Justin Herbert is probably my rookie of the year, and that's in a year where Joe Burrow is coming into the league and looking very good. What Justin Herbert is doing is nothing short of historic at this point.
Yeah, looking incredibly strong then, if you like. But either way, he's
much
looking
better,
great.
James,
yeah,
put some respect on that name, James.
I need to use more describing words here in my vocabulary to get my points across. But he's really changed that Chargers offense, and it is great to see. Of course, they're at 2-4, but they've had a few close games and have been unlucky in places. But the Broncos got Drew Lock back last week against the Chiefs, but he threw 2 interceptions, I believe it was last week.
That's what Drew Lock's going to do. Drew Lock for me is always going to be a guy, even if he pans out to be as like his ceiling, he's still going to throw a lot of interceptions. He did it in Missouri. He will do it in the NFL. He is a gunslinger. It's going to be part of what he does. He didn't look good throwing those interceptions. Yeah, it was in Denver with a cold game, blah, blah, blah. You can make all the excuses, but I don't think you can expect him to not throw interceptions, if you know what I mean, just because that's how he plays. He will try and squeeze those tight balls in there.
So would you back him to put it right then, this game against
No.
against the Chargers, and maybe score more touchdowns than he did? Well, he scored
score
no
more
touchdowns last week.
I think he'll score more touchdowns. I think this will be a get right game in the sense that they'll get the offense rolling a bit more. But this is a couple of weeks now. I mean, against the Patriots 2 weeks ago, they weren't really scoring touchdowns. The offense didn't look great.
Yeah.
Whereas they're going up against a team who's got an offense that seems to be clicking. So this again is another one for me that is not even really a question. I think the Chargers, you've got to take them at -3, and a 45 over/under. Oh, it's a really tricky one, that.
Over. I'm hammering the over on this game.
Over.
I think this Chargers team, they have been in so many close, pretty much one-score games that this team, if let's say they have Herbert in, playing how he is now the whole way through, or even just off of some of those one-score games as they have been, this is a team that could easily be sat here 4-2.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different conversation. I think they're the best negative record team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they're in a brilliant spot moving forward. And I think we're just going to see it throughout the year now that there's going to be games where Herbert puts this on his back. And they have a solid defense, especially when everyone's out there and healthy. So they don't necessarily need a quarterback who's going to go out there, light it up and put a whole team on his back. But he's going to. In fact, he's not just throwing to Keenan Allen. He's not just throwing to the big names. He is just finding guys down the depth chart and just putting it where they almost can't not grab it unless they literally miss it. Well, then they're not going to be on that team much longer, I don't imagine. But he's fine. He's sharing the ball round, and that's a massive thing because as a coordinator, it becomes a lot harder then to scheme against that. You can't just say, right, lock up Keenan Allen, we're done. You're saying like, well, hang on, we've got to lock up the guy we thought was 6th string who's just suddenly out there and he's just burnt us for 70 and a touchdown. Like, what's happened here? So I think the comfortable win for the Chargers.
And he's doing it all without a reliable running game at the moment, which is for a rookie. Not having that running game makes your life a hell of a lot harder. And he's coming out and looking great. So props to him, because I think there's a lot of people around the league that had a lot of questions about Herbert coming out of Oregon, and he has gone and silenced them. And maybe he should have been the number 1 pick.
This becomes, I think, we had it in the draft with sort of teams being like, oh, you passed on Mahomes or Deshaun Watson or whoever. Yeah. This is gonna, I think, become the equivalent. That Tua and Burrow for maybe the next few years, while they could both look good, there's gonna be questions of, well, hang on, they ain't playing great. How did he slip to their sort of thing? And there was even talk he could slip further. Like there's been, so I think this is one of those things where Chargers look back in a few years and go, you know what, we took one slightly miserable season, but we are now set for the next 10, hopefully, if he stays healthy, everything like that, the next potentially 10, 15 years, because he looks that good right now. And the fact that you can put him in a category and say, statistically, he's coming out as good as Mahomes for the same point in
Well,
their career.
he's coming out better. Mahomes took a year on the bench.
Well, yeah. So I guess, without even the year sitting, but in terms of number of starts to stats he's putting up, the fact you can put him in the sentence with Mahomes and you can't actually argue against it, you've done something, right?
Get that pocketbook ready. Right. You're going to be writing a big old check.
Yeah, he's certainly transformed this team since he's come in to be the starting quarterback. So whoever that doctor is, maybe give him a pay rise because he's done you a favour there, I think.
Maybe they'll actually get a bit of a fan base rolling now as well, as opposed to not being able to fill out a 10,000 seat or whatever it is.
Well, he's got a team behind him and they're looking strong. So, yep, I'm agreeing with you boys as well, taking the charge in this one. I think it's no question at this point to take the charge in this game, and look forward to seeing Justin Herbert push on in his career for sure. Okay, let's move things swiftly on to the Saints going in to play the Bears. Now, the Bears finally lost last week, ending that nice little run they had going on. So now 5-2 team. But we mentioned before about their tough run. And is this just going to be another game in that tough run where they're just going to maybe start to fall over themselves?
This is going to be a tight game, I think. I think we don't know what's going on with Thomas, so I think do we
think he's going to get traded?
It's on the cards, I think.
Because I've got a real feeling that he could be gone. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it really depends on what it is behind closed doors. I think we touched on it a bit last week. Of you don't trade a player of that caliber unless they are really becoming a hindrance.
Yeah.
Or unless you're Bill O'Brien.
True, very true. We've seen how that worked out for him. We'll see what happens with that. But I think we're going to start to see constantly there's some issue. He's not playing because of this injury, or he's feeling this week. So I think I'm not even going to say, well, if he plays, Saints will win and all that. I think I'm going to assume he's not playing at this point until we hear some properly good, sort of constructive news about this situation. And I think this is a game that money line I'm betting Saints, but spread I'm taking Bears. I think this is a very close game on the cards here. I think the Rams schemed really, really well on offense. I said it earlier, and got around the issues that the Bears can create for you. But I think this is a Saints offense that hasn't looked slick. It hasn't looked brilliant without Thomas. And I think the last team you want to be playing in that position is the Bears, who they just get in the way. They just put you off your game. And if you're already a little bit off it and not looking yourselves, it could really throw you off enough to make this competitive, where the average Bears offense has a chance to keep them in it. And I think, I'm not going to go on a word and say, Bears win it. But I think it's very close. So, Bears on the spread, Saints on the money line.
This is a matchup I just hate talking about.
It's
not a pretty one, is it?
It's just every time I seem to say that I think that the Saints are down and out, they come back and they put up a game that you think, maybe. And every time I say, surely the wheels are going to come off for the Bears this week, they just scratch out another win, and you watch them and they don't look good doing it on offense or on defense, really. They just somehow manage to get the other team to, I don't know, maybe they're using some kind of witchcraft or something to get the other team to play worse than them.
Another conspiracy there, Sam. Is it another conspiracy from you?
No. That'd be a top class. I reckon, actually, you got Matt Nagy and Roger Goodell having some weird kind of witchcraft rituals before each game to make the other team play worse. So I think that's probably what's going on. 100% guaranteed to be fact. But
for anyone watching on YouTube who isn't, just me and James currently just staring at, we're just looking at him like, what is happening here?
Just blank expressions like, I can't believe these words are coming out of this boy's mouth right now. But
he's still rolling. He's still going down this rabbit hole.
But still not the weirdest claim you made all season. So somehow, I'm not surprised.
We're going to have a top 10, just Sam, what is he on about? Just me and James just like, what?
Honestly,
Sam's what moments of the year come the end of this season.
The Bears will make it to the NFC Championship, and it will be witchcraft. But I can't call this game. I really can't. I don't know what I want to say the Saints. I want to say the Saints comfortably by a touchdown, but there's a lot of me that's saying probably the Bears because I think the Saints, if you know what I mean. The one thing I will say is I'm taking the over. 44 low over. 44.
Yeah, I can see that coming in as well.
I don't
I think
know.
that's the only thing I feel more confident about. I think I'm with you as well, Sam. This game I just don't know how to.
It's a
call
lover.
I'm avoiding that over-under for me personally. I could see this just being messy football, scrappy kind of I don't know. I don't like that as much as the Saints. Oh God, as much as the Saints should put up enough points, the Bears I don't trust to, and I think the defense throws them off. I think the Bears-Rams would have had more of a chance of hitting this over, and that didn't, in my opinion. But,
yeah,
I
think we're struggling to make a solid this is going to happen.
Basically, we don't know.
We
The
don't,
one
it's
thing
too hard to call.
we do know is that there's definitely foulness at play.
You're the wizard, Nagy.
Exactly.
Oh, that's incredible.
Exactly.
That is how we end that, I think.
Let's move on from a very vague Harry Potter reference. And let's move on to the last 9 p.m. game of the week, where the 49ers are going in to play the Seahawks. And although last week it was a big game for Tyler Lockett, which really messed me about on fantasy, we did call it for the Cardinals to beat the Seahawks. So, of course, they're now 5-1 after that little loss. And the 49ers are off the back of a good win against the Patriots. So, do we see them continuing it, or is it just the Seahawks will get back on track and they'll get the win here?
Nope.
No,
Yeah.
Seahawks win this game.
Yeah, okay, good.
The most important thing that I think really helped Arizona is the 3 picks by Russell Wilson, right? Now, Russell Wilson played a really good game of football against Arizona, apart from 3 picks. He actually, the rest of the game, he did play really well, and he had a classic Russell Wilson game. It was just, sometimes you do have games, a quarterback will have games where you can play really well, but you just make 3 massive mistakes.
I watched
which
Jameis
overshadows
Winston for 5 years.
everything
I know
else.
what you mean.
Exactly. And that's really uncharacteristic of Russell Wilson. How often does he play that well but have just 3 plays where he falls apart and it effectively loses them the game, in my opinion? There was also the silly call of the kind of the single high safety, and then the Kyler Murray just chucking that deep ball, the smile on his face when he saw the coverage and he was smiling before he even threw the ball. That's just blown coverage.
Love that confidence.
Yeah. I think the Seahawks put this behind them. Russ will just go, look, I made 3 bad plays which lost us the game effectively. He'll take that on, even though maybe it's not necessarily all on him. But other than that, he had a great game, so he's still playing at that level. He will come back and he will handle business. Really like the over in this game just because I think Jimmy Garoppolo's starting to look maybe a little bit more comfortable, working back from his injury. You've got Kittle back now, been back in the offense for a couple of games. Maybe they're starting to find their groove a little bit more. So I think their offense puts up points considering this is a bad Seahawks defense.
I think there's a lot of people that are going to say, 49ers are back. I think they're back, at least on the offensive side of the ball, getting towards more what we were expecting, looking better. But a lot of that looking like they're getting back to it was against the Patriots, who we covered earlier, are just in a weird spot right now. The Seahawks is a completely different just conversation. Beast. Like there is no comparisons to draw in any way. You can't. I don't really take anything from the Niners beating the Pats into this game. I think the Seahawks comfortably take it whatever way you want to look at betting on this. And I think you're going to have Russell Wilson, who just wants to get right, wants to say, forget that happened. He was going to throw picks at some point. The numbers he was putting up, the ratios he was putting up are not sustainable. So it's going to happen. And fair play to the Cardinals. I think more I'm taking from this is the Cardinals are legit. The Seahawks are still good. Seahawks win it. Keep rolling.
The Seahawks, and more importantly, Russ is still great. The rest of that game, Russ played a very good game of football. So no, but I think I just want to impress on it because the 3 picks, it's one of those things where a team can win and they can win by 20 points, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they were that much better. The 3 picks here, I don't think that means Russ didn't have a bad game. He just threw 3 picks, and I think there is a difference. So
no, there is. Yeah.
We're not disagreeing.
There's no argument. I mean, we know you love Russ and you'll defend him with your life.
Think...
We've been there. We've heard it for hours. So
just
We know.
depends.
We know.
I think
bud,
what
it's
let them
alright.
down again was just the defense. Giving up 430 passing yard, total yards. Sorry. I think that's the issue. And that's why I'm happy taking the over of 54 on this one, because that defense is bad. And although the 49ers are banged up, they'll be able to put up some scores against this defense.
Yeah.
But I still would back Russ to get it done, to cover the spread of -3. So I'll be taking the Seahawks to win this game as well.
I think the Seahawks will not be the only team to get burnt that hard by this Cardinals offense this season and over the next few years. I think we're seeing a legit team starting in Arizona.
But Russ did have 3 interceptions, which, of
so
course...
bad game.
Bad
he lost the game for
quarterback,
Seahawks. He's a bad
really
quarterback.
bad quarterback.
Never going to be the MVP.
Get
him out, trade him, rebuild.
Let's move on to the next game.
Get some Bears witchcraft, move it on.
Well, I was just finally that air raid offense of the Cardinals really exposed the cornerbacks of the Seahawks.
Yeah, very true.
That needs to be
Called
sorted for the Seahawks. Yeah, you did. You did, in fairness.
Bang, bang, bang. But let's move it on to the final game, the final Sunday night game, or Monday morning if you're in the UK, 1:20 in the morning. That sees the Cowboys go into Philadelphia to play the Eagles. Both teams
Trash Bowl, week 3.
Low on wins this season. Cowboys, pretty much done. I think for the year they're looking like they're going to be without Dalton for this division game. They're going to be relying on the ever reliable DiNucci, who I think we can all agree is going to be phenomenal this game. All sarcasm aside, it's a tough one for the Cowboys this year.
Horrendous spot to be put in, to be fair.
Pains me that one of these teams has got to win this game.
I think you're being harsh, because I think this Eagles team starting to get healthy, get some names back, and I think that's big for them. I think 100% they win this division, comfortably, and I think we're going to start to actually see them do. It's what they did last year. It's what I think back. You pitched us the question of what are these teams with losing records, I think it was a few weeks ago, need to do to get right, and said about the Eagles, don't hit the panic button, stay patient, start to get healthy again, let Wentz and the no-names figure it out. It's what they seem to have had to have done the last few years, and it's what they're doing again.
Yeah,
I think they're locked to win this division. I think they comfortably win this game. I think this could actually be somewhat of a blowout. The fact that they've been able to come out and put up points like they did on the Ravens, for example, that says a lot. And the fact this is against the Cowboys, who there's a big difference in the Cowboys and Ravens defenses, we'll put it that way. This is going to be comfortable for the Eagles. And I think Zeke as well is the point where you say, right, lean on him now. There's questions at quarterback. But you can't lean on him, because if you lean on him too hard, he's going to fumble the ball up. Yeah. It's like, I don't know where this has come from. The O-line doesn't look as good for the Cowboys. I think, not always staying healthy, obviously lost in the off-season, but this could be a negative trend, I'm thinking, especially for this year, but just in what you expect from Zeke. Unless he can get right, stop fumbling the ball, get back to just looking like explosive Zeke that we know. Because at points, Pollard actually looks more reliable over the last few weeks. There's been plays where he's come in and he looks better. And it's like, well, what is going on here? This is just a team in disarray. Not all their own fault. What happened with Dak, and then now with Dalton, a dreadful hit. Like, not needed at all.
The dressing room's gone. The dressing room. Yeah. Do you remember 4 or 5 years ago, Chelsea came off in the Premiership. Chelsea came off. They won the Premiership. They had a great year, and then something happened in that locker room, and everyone lost faith in Mourinho, and they just started playing appallingly, literally seemingly out of nowhere. And Mourinho was gone. You could tell when the players just didn't want to play for him. I think you've got a similar scenario here. I mean, when you're 6-7 games into a job as a head coach in the NFL, and you've already got questions as to why are you here now, then that's doomed for failure, in my opinion. Like in the NFL of any league, especially, I feel like most of the time you get at least a whole season to kind of build your culture, and you get a season's leeway. Jerry Jones is already getting asked questions of, have you made a mistake here? And he's trying to say, nah, McCarthy's the guy, but you can see McCarthy's not the guy. The players don't want to play for him. They don't have trust in that coaching staff. And I think they're just going to get the brakes beat off of them by the Eagles, who I agree probably will win this division. However, I do think there's a good chance the Eagles win this division with a losing record.
Yeah.
I think the Eagles will make it to the playoffs, but I still think it will be a shame that the Eagles make it to the playoff because I don't think they're a playoff team, and they will get pummeled in the first round of the playoffs.
No, I agree with that.
One thing with this Cowboys team, we don't know who leaked from that locker room, who came out with these comments specifically, but we're seeing they're not happy with the defense. So, I think it was today, 3 players gone. Donatari Poe being one of them, veteran kind of players. And I think the only reason when you've got a defense, even though it does look bad, that you would get rid of sort of the veterans on this team, but you'd more think the guys stepping up saying, let's get right. I get the feeling maybe we're seeing, without them saying, this is why, this is completely just opinion, me kind of guessing, but I think maybe this is where that unsettlement in the locker room is coming from. Because I don't see why it would come from the offense.
But then again, when Dalton got hit at the weekend, there's been other issues of people coming out going, well, hang on, why weren't the Cowboys like jumping to his age? You know what I mean? Like
they were checking on him. If you see the picture, there's 5 of them around him. I prefer that to why go try beat up the guy who did it.
Mate,
check on the guy. No. Check on the guy that's unconscious on the floor. Like as much as
flair.
What's knocking someone out going to do?
I want to see someone get laid out.
We know that from your comment about Gase earlier on, mate.
Hopefully Gase. I wish that O-line for the Cowboys had gone to wherever Gase was and laid him out.
Right,
I see what you mean.
Yeah, let's bring it back round. And the Eagles, they're currently top of the division, with only because of the tie. I think they won't lose that top spot anymore. I believe they'll come in here and get the win. And like you said, Matt, they've got players coming back off injury that will help bolster their team. And the other thing as well, the Cowboys is, I've mentioned it, they've got Danucci. And I just looking at his stat line from last week, he had 3 sacks and he had 3 pass attempts. So I mean,
he's a rookie who was never meant to be great.
No, I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying that doesn't help the team at all. And that's why I think the Eagles will win this game, because there's questions of the quarterback there through no fault of his own, granted, but I just think the Eagles should take this game quite comfortably. And the spread being -7, I think I would also take that.
100%.
Yeah, I don't think you can argue with that at all.
I think the over is one to take on this game, because I think the Eagles can comfortably put up 30, if not more, points here. And I think I can see the Cowboys finding a way to get the remaining sort of maybe 2 scores on the board. Just because this Eagles defense isn't brilliant. It's nothing special. It's had points where you think, oh, there's something there. And then there's been points of like, oh, there was no one there. Like quite literally just no one covering people sort of thing. So I think I'm taking the over on this one. And being prime time, I think maybe his team would be a bit loose, just both wanting to come out and set records straight within reason. And I think. Yeah,
of course the under over there being 43.5 for this game. So I think I'm with you on that one, Matt, as well. I think I will be taking that. Let's finish up the last game of the week. We have a Monday Night Football, which I put down as the big Brit Iron matchup, first of the season for the boys. The Buccaneers, Matt's Buccaneers are going to play Sam's Giants. Buccaneers 5-2 the season off the back of a nice win against the Raiders, which I didn't see come in, granted. The Giants 1-6, lost against the Eagles in the final seconds.
Heartbreaking fashion.
Heartbreaking time.
Those Eagles beat your Giants.
2 weeks in a row, you've lost games, right? Well, I know you won the last game before. Actually, so I say that I'm wrong there. You won that game before, but still, this game here went down to the last, and just not good at all. So Bucs are clear favourites.
No, you talk about some games for teams as it's a roadblock on the route to where they go in the season. Maybe it's a speed bubble. This is barely even a pebble, I think, on the way it's going to turn out. The Bucs just I'm sorry, but look, this defense is looking legit and getting better every game. Jones is just going to be running for his life, and when he's not running for his life, he's getting picked. I hate to break your golden boy, Sam, but this is going to be ugly.
He's going to
Brady's getting it figured out and starting to like Devin White hitting Daniel Jones. Jones can't run from him. Devin White is going to be on him, and the ball's getting coughed up. And I think our offense is starting to get right. Starting to look like what we need to see from it. Brady looks actually near his best that he's been at. Statistically, he is back at some of the levels and the numbers he was putting up in his good years. So I mean, Yeah, Bucks take it comfortably, keep it moving, keep rolling on towards the big game.
I think in order for the
I'm loving
Giants to
this.
start being successful,
I was going to say, sorry, just to interject, for those listening on Spotify and Apple, please come in and watch on YouTube just to see Sam's face when Matt starts talking about why his Bucks are going to beat Sam's Giants, because I was cracking up just watching the face just develop over time and looking more and more disappointed.
There was a tear in the eye when I said Golden Boy Daniel Jones. You saw the good moments from last year, and then all just this year, him just coughing balls up left and right.
We've got good moments. We just need to learn how to play with Daniel Jones, and I think we saw that last weekend for a bit of a. We saw what the future is, and that's quite simple. We need to
Justin Fields.
He's a mobile quarterback. We need to realise this. We need to start playing him like he makes Lamar Jackson look slow.
There's a flat bit of turf in front of him.
He's out there hitting speeds that Olympic sprinters can only dream of. We need to really scheme around this. We need to roll him outside of the pocket.
No. Matt mentioned bump in the road. I think that might have been for the wrong context. Bump in the road was clearly Daniel Jones trying to run.
When he hits the 20-yard line, just falls on his face.
Because
now that is my franchise quarterback.
That is how fast Daniel Jones was running. His speed, his body couldn't even comprehend how quickly he was going. So I think if we can just kind of...
The ramblings of a broken man.
Scheme into that a little bit. Scheme into that a little bit. Get Daniel Jones rolling out of the pocket. Get him moving. Open up the pass game with a bit of run. And, I reckon we've got a good chance to maybe lose by 20.
If I'm Daniel Jones, I'm trying to stay as much in that pocket as possible. So the second he steps out of it, he's just getting swarmed left and right.
That is a smart move, I think.
Yeah,
just step out the back of the end zone every time. Just be like, no, it's fine. I don't want to get injured today. No, thank you.
Giants have got no shot here. I don't think they have. I mean, unless the Buccaneers come out and just lay an egg.
Penalties?
He's good.
Even
I
then,
think you'd need 200 yards of penalties, to be honest.
The Bucks have. It's happened. It's the worst thing. Yeah. But I think the Bucks could clear the over on them by themselves here potentially.
Well,
47 points. I think we could put at least very close. We did on the Packers, and they're a hell of a lot of a better team than you with a much better defense.
But the Packers, I think you could see you'd have been driving up the score there. I think this is the kind of score you might get to 35 and just take players out because the Giants aren't coming back. Do you know what I mean? Like the Packers, there'd always be that thing of, but Aaron Rodgers could do this. I don't think anyone's going to be sat there if you're 25 points up on them going, well, Daniel Jones is going to pull this out of the bag.
That's when Leonard Fournette will step in and just roll. We've seen it in some games earlier in the year. I think the second we're up, we'll start to lean more towards the run if we have to. Brady throws it when he needs to and starting to throw some dimes. I don't know. I could see us covering the over.
I know that you're going to win it, and you're going to win it by a lot, but I will go out and say that you guys will not cover the over on your own.
I don't think in general this game will cover the over. I just can't see it happening. It's got like a 42-3 game written all over it.
I could see it that way. Just scraping underneath it.
Yeah, just scraping underneath it. The 47 I think is quite hard to clear on your own. I can't see the Giants putting up too many points.
I think 40 plus points is realistic. I think 42, what you saw, I could realistically see that.
Yeah, it will take a touchdown. It will take a touchdown from the Giants to swing it for me. I think the under over. So that reason I'm sticking under for the 47 point there, and the spread at minus 10.5 in favour of the Bucks. Again, I think I'm taking on the same basis. Yeah, on the same basis I just described there.
This could be one of those games that realistically you could argue could be above 14. So I think a spread of 10.5 is very generous.
Yeah, two scores. Yeah, can see it happening easily. So locking up the Buccaneers for that one for sure.
Comfortably, yeah.
And that concludes all of the games in Week 8 in the 2020 NFL season. What a week it's going to be!
Wait.
Exciting times.
Let's go.
This is a good week. A lot of good games and a lot of potential highlights coming out of this week for sure, including Sam crying over his Giants being absolutely hammered by the Bucks, which
things you love.
Never know.
See.
Might be able to borrow some of Chicago's witchcraft, and we'll be good.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah,
you never know. No, I mean that's a conspiracy I don't want to go down because it's a dangerous game. God. It's a dangerous game, but Unfortunately, that is all we've got time for today.
Luckily, that's all we got time for.
Yeah, I should have said that actually. Yeah, luckily, that is all we've got time for today. As ever, be sure to head over to YouTube. Go like, comment, and subscribe. Please subscribe. Really need it. Really need it. Really helps the channel out. And also, always forget to mention this one. Turn the notification bell on. I'll let you know when we post. So you never miss a Brit Iron moment, because there's so many moments that are unmissable on this channel for sure. And be sure to head over.
Conspiracies.
Yep, all the conspiracies. Yep, Sam. Yep. Also, be sure to head over to Twitter and Instagram. We are at the Brit Iron. Go give us a follow. Go get involved with the conversation. Starting communities on both of those platforms, which is great to see. And if you haven't by now noticed, we are also taking Listener League start-sit questions. Sorry, not Listener League, Fantasy start-sit questions, which we are asking for before a Tuesday night. So if you've got any on your mind, maybe for next week at this point, be sure to get them in. But yeah, unless you boys have any other points to raise,
do not ask Sam that.
Good point. Good point. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.